Time for another episode of Pottawattamie County Roots. Hi, I'm Todd Studer. You hear it occasionally that someone believes that a business it just was like an overnight success, that they just instantly grew and everything was sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns for them. But I'm here to tell you that that's not true. Those can sometimes happen, but it's more of an outlier thing. Most of us are in it for the grind, and that's what this episode is about. How do you do business in Pottawattamie County as a small business? How do you grow your business, and how do you work with organizations like WIDA and Advanced Southwest Iowa Corporation and also the Small Business Development Center? All of those entities are in place to help you grow, but you can only do it if you have a little bit of what my dad used to call stick-to-itiveness. So we're going to talk about that today on Pottawattamie County Roots. Primrose Retirement Community believes home should be a place of comfort, connection, and care. From personalized support to engaging daily activities, everything they do is designed to help residents live fully and confidently. At Primrose, that's their priority, putting the quality of the residents' care and daily needs at the top of their list each day and every day. Not just about where you live, it's about how you live. Learn more at primroseretirement.com and give Jamie Bush a call and discover a place that truly puts people first. On Pottawattamie County Roots, we explore the places that make our region home and the people who keep them connected. That is why we are proud to feature Marnie Elkhorn Communications, your local communications provider, serving Marnie, Elkhorn, Walnut, Avoca, and other Southwest Iowa towns with high-speed fiber internet, reliable phone service, and TV options built for rural living. With real local support and unlimited data plans, you get speeds up to 1 gig to work, stream, and stay in touch. Visit metc.net. Okay, today we're going to have a conversation that might feel a little bit like a splash of cold water on a February morning, but I promise you, it is the most refreshing thing you're going to hear all year. Now, before we get into the data, I want you to do something. Open up your favorite social media app. I don't care which one. Scroll for just 30 seconds. You know exactly what you're going to see. You're going to see the lifestyle experts. They're usually leaning against a high-end sports car, in Omaha or Des Moines, and they look right into the lens and tell you they've cracked the code. They promise that with their specific blueprint or their secret masterclass, you can go from a standing start to total financial freedom in 90 days. They call it an overnight win. They call it scaling to the moon. And honestly, in our part of the world, we know that's a total distraction. It's a distraction because it ignores the laws of physics. It ignores the laws of economics, and most importantly, it ignores the laws of Pottawattamie County. When you're sitting in Council Bluffs or Macedonia or Trainer, and you are in your second year of trying to get a new venture off the ground, that digital mirage makes you feel like you're falling behind. It makes you feel like because you haven't reached the peak by month 6, you must not have what it takes. Today, we are dismantling that myth. We're going to look at why fast growth is almost always a fragile foundation for a project. We're going to talk about why the slow build is the only thing that actually lasts, especially right here in western Iowa. Now, in our county, from the Missouri River over to the East Pottawattamie border, we have a different way of measuring achievement. We don't care about going viral. We don't care about how many likes a post gets in California. We care about being open on a Tuesday morning when the Luss Hills are covered in 6 inches of fresh snow. We care about whether the local school district in Underwood or Oakland can count on you for a sponsorship. We care about legacy. Now, according to an organization called the Kaufman Indicators, a high percentage of startups in Iowa survive their first year. We are actually pretty good at starting things here. But by year 5, about half of the new ventures nationally have closed their doors. These aren't just numbers on a page. These are real people. They're people who likely bought into that fast break myth. They didn't realize they were entering a decathlon, not a 100-meter dash. So in places like Walnut or Neola, and you aren't just competing with the shop down the street, you're building a relationship with a community. And that community has a very long memory. If you try to sprint through that relationship, you will find yourself out of breath and out of luck. Pottawattamie County isn't built on sprints. It's built on the steady, seasonal rhythms of the land. Our ancestors didn't plant a seed on Monday and expect to eat the harvest by Friday. They understood the patient, grinding work of the seasons. Business is no different. Okay, so let's talk about the ground we are standing on, or sitting on, if you will. If you've ever driven out toward Honey Creek or Crescent, you've seen the Luss Hills. They're beautiful, unique, and rugged. But you know how they were made? They weren't formed by a sudden earthquake or a volcano. They were formed by wind-blown silt, settling one tiny grain at a time over thousands and thousands of years. That silt, called loess, piled up until it created a landscape that you can't find anywhere else in the world, well, except for maybe China. So that is exactly how a successful business in Pottawattamie County is built. One layer of trust at a time, one loess grain of good customer experience at a time. When you look at the U.S. Census data for Pottawattamie County, you see a population of about 93,000 people. We have a workforce of nearly 50,000 people. These are people who know the value of an honest day's work. They grew up watching their parents and grandparents deal with floods, droughts, and changing markets. Because of that, our local customers have a nonsense filter. They can smell a get-rich-quick scheme from a mile away. They aren't looking for the next disruptor to come into town and change everything overnight. They're looking for the next anchor. An anchor is a business that stays put when the storm hits. If you want to be an anchor, you have to be willing to sink deep into the soil before you ever try to touch the sky. You have to be willing to spend years being the new person before you are finally the local expert. Think about the history of our towns. Avoca was founded in 1869. Oakland incorporated in 1882. These towns didn't just appear. They grew because people stayed. They built general stores, blacksmith shops, and grain elevators that served the farmers nearby. Those businesses didn't scale to the moon in 90 days. They grew as the community grew. This is where groups like the Western Iowa Development Association, or WIDA, come in. They work with towns like Avoca, Minden, and Shelby, and they don't walk into a town and say, we're going to build a skyscraper tomorrow. Instead, they look at the slow, steady work of making a downtown look better. They look at how to help a local entrepreneur get their first storefront. They understand that for a rural shop to thrive, it has to be part of the fabric of the town. They know that a thriving Macedonia makes for a stronger trainer. They understand that we are all connected by the same roads, or roots, if you will, and that same history. Now let's talk about the actual math. I know math isn't always the most exciting word, but in business, math is the difference between staying open and going broke. We often hear about those tech startups in Silicon Valley that hit $1 billion value in a blink. Those are the lottery winners. For the rest of us, the bakers, the mechanics, the retailers, and the farmers of Pottawattamie County, achievement follows a very specific, very slow curve. Most small operations in Iowa do not see true financial stability for 18 to 36 months. Think about that. That is 3 full years of putting more into the system than you're taking out. If you go into a project in Carson or Hancock expecting to be finished by year 1, you're going to want to walk away right when the momentum is finally starting to build. There's a concept called the flywheel effect. Now imagine a massive 10-ton metal wheel. Your job is to get it spinning. You push with everything you have. Your muscles ache. You're sweating. And for the first hour, it moves maybe 2 inches. You're exhausted, and your neighbors walk by and ask why you're wasting your time. They tell you about a shortcut they saw online, but you keep pushing. After a month, it finally completes 1 full rotation. After a year, it's moving at a steady pace. Then one day, something amazing happens. The weight of the wheel itself starts to help you. The momentum takes over. That is the point where the overnight win appears to happen to everyone on the outside. But you know it took 5 years of pushing to get there. In our county, that flywheel is your reputation. Now, in major cities like Chicago or Dallas, you can live on high turnover. If you get a bad experience to one person, there's a million more who don't know who you are. But in a place like Walnut, there's no such thing as being anonymous. Everyone knows everyone. Your reputation is your most valuable asset. Research shows that rural entrepreneurs who prioritize social capital, which is just a fancy way of saying being a good neighbor, have a much higher success rate than those who just focus on the short-term bottom line. In Pottawattamie County, your neighbors are more than just neighbors. They are your first supporters. They are your first customers, and they are your first line of defense during a downturn. If you try to scale fast and ignore those relationships, you'll find out very quickly that the community won't be there to catch you when you fall. When we talk about the overnight myth, we have to talk about the cost of moving too fast. In the startup world, there's a term called burn rate. That is how much money you are spending every month just to keep the lights on while you chase growth. In a place like Crescent or Underwood, a high burn rate is the quickest way to end a project before it even starts. The businesses that stay here, the ones that become part of the history of the county, are the ones that manage their resources like a drought-resistant crop. Think about the corn and soybeans we see every summer. They don't just grow tall, they grow down. Their roots search for water deep in the Iowa soil. When the dry weeks of August come, the plants that grew too fast without deep roots are the first to wither. The ones that spent their energy on roots are the ones that make it to harvest. The Southwest Iowa Planning Council focuses on this kind of long-term resilience. They know our region deals with things that we can't control, market prices or weather patterns. Your business plan has to be as resilient as our flood walls. If it's built on a foundation of viral growth and quick wins, it's built on sand. If you are running a shop in Neola, you're competing with the convenience of a big box store in Council Bluffs. You can't win by being faster or cheaper than a global corporation. You win by being deeper. You win by knowing your customers' names. You win by being the person who stays late to help a neighbor. You win by being the business that sponsors the local 4-H club. That is the slow burn strategy. It isn't something you can buy with an expensive ad campaign. It's something you earn through years of showing up and doing the right thing. Let's talk about the mind of the entrepreneur. Running a business in a rural county like ours can be lonely. When you're in that middle stage where the excitement of the grand opening has faded, but the flywheel hasn't started helping you yet, it's easy to get discouraged. This is the stage where the social media experts do the most damage. They make you think that your struggle is a sign of failure, but in reality, your struggle is just the sound of the roots growing. Here in Pottawattamie County, we have seen this story play out many times. Think about the historic 100 block of West Broadway in Council Bluffs. Those buildings have stood for over 100 years. They've seen the railroad come and go. They've seen the transition from horse and buggy to electric cars. The businesses inside of those buildings changed, but the ones that lasted were the ones that understood the community. They were the ones that survived the Great Depression and the floods of 1952 and 2019. They didn't survive because they were fast. They survived because they were integrated. Integration means you are part of the ecosystem. You aren't just taking from the town, you're adding to it. When you sponsor a Little League team and trainer or a scholarship in Tri-Center, you aren't just doing a nice thing, you're building a safety net. You're making sure that when times get tough, the town wants you to succeed as much as you do. That is the difference between a disruptor and an anchor. A disruptor comes in, breaks things, and leaves when the profit dips. An anchor holds the ship steady. And in a county that's seen its fair share of storms, we will choose the anchor every single time. Now let's look at the hidden side of business, infrastructure. This is something the lifestyle gurus never mention because it isn't sexy. It doesn't make for a good 30-second video. To grow a business in Minden or Macedonia, you need more than a good idea. You need high-speed internet. You need reliable roads. You need housing for your employees. You need childcare for their kids. These are the slow parts of economic development. You can't build a new housing subdivision in Avoca overnight. You can't lay fiber optic cable across the county in a weekend. It takes years of planning, meetings, and hard work. Groups like WIDA and the Pottawattamie County Board of Supervisors spend a lot of time on these issues. They are building the soil so that your seeds have a chance to grow. When a town gets a new broadband grant or a new water tower, it might not seem like a business story, but it is the most important business story. It means that 20 years from now, A kid in Oakland can start a global tech company from their kitchen table. It means a manufacturer can set up shop in Council Bluffs and know their workers have a place to live. If you're a business owner, you need to pay attention to these things. Be part of the conversation. Go to the city council meetings in Carson. Talk to the economic development people. The slow burn isn't just about your shop, it's about the whole town. When the town grows right, you grow right. So, as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a challenge. I'm going to call this the 20-year rule. In the world of fast growth startups, 20 years sounds like an eternity. To a lifestyle guru on social media, 20 years sounds like a failure, but in Pottawattamie County, 20 years, you're just getting started. The businesses we love, the ones that define our towns, are the ones that took the slow path. They didn't over-leverage themselves in the first year. They didn't try to open 5 locations before they mastered the first one. They understood that the goal isn't just to be big. The goal is to be unbreakable. Think about the farmers in our county. They don't measure success by a 90-day window. They measure it by generations. They look at the land and ask, how can I leave this better for my grandkids? That is the mindset we need in our local shops and offices. If you're building a business in Pottawattamie County, don't just build it for yourself. Build it for the person who's going to own it 40 years from now. Build it so that it becomes a landmark. Build it so that it becomes part of the geology of the town. So if you're currently in the middle of that slow burn, if you're wondering why your growth feels like watching a glacier move, don't listen to the noise. Don't let a 30-second video from someone who has never been to Western Iowa make you feel like you're behind. Remember the Luss Hills. Remember the Missouri River. Remember the generations of people who built this county, one brick, one seed, and one handshake at a time. You are building something that matters. You are building something that is going to be an anchor for the next generation. Pottawattamie County is an oak tree country. Oak trees don't grow in 90 days. Keep that in mind. You know that finding the right care for a loved one can feel overwhelming, and Assisted Living Locators is here to help. Jean Bonker brings more than 30 years of experience serving families and has personally navigated the challenges of elder care. She understands the questions, the emotions, and the weight of these decisions. Jean becomes your advocate, guiding you through options with clarity, compassion, and personal support every step of the way. Call Assisted Living Locators 402-690-5467 and move forward with confidence. The Jenny Edmondson Foundation believes healthcare goes beyond hospital walls. Through its Caring for Our Communities initiative, the foundation helps high-risk, low-income, and underserved individuals access resources that remove barriers to better health and long-term well-being. And coming up very soon, on February 27th, the foundation will also bring the community together through Dance to the Beat, a signature event that raises critical funds for uninsured and underinsured heart patients. Those funds help provide treatment, medication, rehabilitation, and life-saving support. Learn more, get involved, and support the mission at jehfoundation.org. Well, thanks for joining me today. If you found any of this helpful, please share it with another person in our county who's in the middle of the journey and let them know they aren't alone and they aren't off track. They're just growing an oak tree. My name's Todd Studer, and we're going to call this one the 20-year legacy. Get out there, stay patient. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.